Hello everyone, welcome to this internally screening review for Mako, The Jaws of Death. This film came out in 1976 in the immediate aftermath of the success of Jaws as part of a wave of shark-themed creature features to capitalise off the insane success of that film. What's kind of unique about Mako as a film is that it, rather than showing the sharks as these horrifying, dangerous creatures that we all need to be scared of, it instead shows the sharks to be incredibly sympathetic, and our main character is like a marine biologist preserving or caring for a number of sharks, and instead he is forced to take violent action against those putting sharks in harm's way, who either collect sharks for museums or just hunt them for sport. And it's kind of this interesting unraveling of one man on a kind of very personal but quite sort of self-destructive journey, a one-man mission to preserve the sharks in his neighbourhood. So Rupert, what do you make of Mako, The Jaws of Death?
I think this film is really interesting. And from what I've read, apparently, he was trying to make this film and then Jaws came out and then it only got funded afterwards.
I see.
So just in defence of Mako, it wasn't just the Jaws ripoff. They were already trying to make it. But I think this film is really interesting. The message of the film is very different to what you'd normally get from something around this time in the 70s, 80s, where a lot of creature features were just like, this thing's fucking scary.
Yeah.
Even something like Jaws, which takes it sort of a little bit more symbolically, it's like, oh, the Jaws is capitalism. The big shark equals capitalism and it's fucking scary. This sort of takes an almost sort of Pixar vision of sharks, where it's like, no, sharks are our friends. Right. We must protect them. It's a kind of sweet message for the film. A little bit ahead of its time for what it was.
Very much.
If this ended up being the hit and not Jaws, wouldn't have done as much unintentional damage to sharks worldwide as Jaws did. In terms of the film itself, however, I do struggle with it because we're once again covering a very, very low budget film that is very amateurish, seems very sort of student filmish, barely any money behind it, and is going for something that must have been very difficult to make.
Yes.
So whilst I do really respect it, I think the film lulls into being quite boring at points. For everything it does well, which is quite a few things, I'm sure we'll cover those, I think it has a sort of sloppiness to it that drags it down. And I also think some of the most interesting elements of it are some of the campiest elements.
Right.
That it never really goes deep into in a way that I found a little bit... For a film that seems to be at least a little self-aware, it's a bit disappointing for it to not sort of have a bit more fun with some of that stuff. Because, I guess, spoilers, this guy is a shark psychic. He can literally, he can speak to the sharks, which is a great concept, and I wish they'd done a little bit more with it in the film.
For sure. Yeah, they gloss over the specifics of it.
Yeah.
And perhaps to its detriment, because it would have been really funny to examine some of those.
I would have just loved him to have a conversation with a shark at some point.
It
gives you this great, interesting backstory, very horror 70s backstory of him trying to escape some like criminals or something.
Yeah.
But he's like swimming through the marshes trying to get away from the bad guys, and then he meets this tribal chief who like gives him the totem of the shark and says, you will go forth and be Sharkman, basically, because
you trusted the sharks.
Oh yeah, you trusted the sharks, and the sharks ended up eating the people chasing him and not him. That was really funny.
Yeah.
And I wish they, if you'd have gone a little bit, I'm not saying like you have to do like a whole mythos around Sharkman, but I don't know, it was something a bit more fun.
There's something very entertaining in amongst all of that, and they played it quite safe in terms of the focus on very sort of ordinary human events and the human exploitation of sharks, which is a very noble topic for this film to take. And like we said, very ahead of its time, because particularly in the wake of Jaws, but given the fact that this film was being made before Jaws came out, it's kind of oddly prescient in terms of its commentary because of the damage that Jaws inadvertently did. I think what's interesting is, in spite of its title, The Jaws of Death, a lot of the violence and death is caused by the man in his sort of dutiful care of sharks. He will sort of go onto vessels, scuba diving, free sharks from like hooks in their mouths. There's an interesting thing, the film opens with many divers put their lives at risk to make this film happen. And I kind of scoffed at it immediately, like, yeah, whatever, you got some footage of sharks going from side to side and that was it. It's not dangerous at all. Right out of the get-go, they are like in with the sharks, like interacting super closely. Like you've got like stunt doubles going into the water with sharks, and they're clearly faking the fact that they're getting like attacked with sort of obscured like fake blood in the water and things like that. But the orchestration and
wouldn't do it.
choreography of that's intense.
Yeah. It's scary,
and really like impressively orchestrated to kind of get these very convincing shots in a way that something like Jaws obviously never could, because of the kind of heightened nature of that film. It was impossible to kind of orchestrate those things, but on a smaller scale like this, it really adds a level of like intensity and reality to all of it. It's really impressively well executed on that end. And then he'll go up on a boat, harpoon some people,
the opening
chop them off into the water, get them eaten by the sharks instead of the sharks getting eaten by them, and shit like that. But then we get kind of an interesting portrayal of him as a quite sort of kind of unhinged, but like kind of
sheltered loner.
Exactly. He's a bit of a hermit. He goes out on his boat, he does his thing, and he will get approached by various like sort of businessmen because he's known to be like a shark expert. So we need a shark for this exhibit. And I need a shark for my maritime themed restaurant, which becomes the kind of hook of the film, is that he's giving his treasured shark to a man who has a restaurant slightly sunk down into this lake or something.
Well, it has like a pool in it.
Yeah, or something like that.
It's not in a lake. It's got its own pool.
That's it.
It's about the size of a very normal bar.
But
it can house about 50 people in it. And a bar in America, generally speaking, doesn't need a great deal of spectacle to sell drinks.
No.
But you have this sort of morbidly obese man who is like, no, I need sharks.
Yes.
If my restaurant's going to be any good, I need a fucking shark to swim with my wife, who I don't care about.
Yeah.
so
she's dressed up as a mermaid swimming around in behind these portholes they've got behind the bar, and no one fucking gives a shit. Everyone's like, what? Why would I care? So he's like, got to spice this up with the shark. He's blatantly getting fucked over, our main character, but he for some reason buys into it.
He's like so naive.
There's quite an interesting and cruel twist that they do with the classic love story, because you feel like this romance blossoming. The wife,
the woman, she's like quite sort of, she's like, I don't want to keep doing this, because she's like a performer, right?
Yeah.
And she's married to this like restaurant owner who's just disgusting and mean and
you're very manipulative and controlling.
And they sort of have this budding romance.
But it turns out that the budding romance has all kind of been performed as a means to exploit this man, which is really cruel because of the way they build it up. Like, she's about to get like attacked and raped by two of like the regulars from the bar, and our main protagonist comes along and saves her from that, drives her to safety, but he's like, well, I've got to go look after my sharks, so I'll be back in a sec. And she's like, fuck that, I'm coming with you. She sees him with the sharks. He's like so grateful someone's taken an interest. So he's like, showing her all the stuff.
And he's got the little shark hole in his cabin.
Shark hole, he's like, hey,
come on out, guys.
Hey, buddy. He's got these two little, they must be juvenile tiger sharks, which is, can I just say, massive misnomer of this film. I have no idea why they decided to run with Mako.
This film had about 5 working titles, by the way.
They kept changing it, but at no point
can I tell. Why did they settle on the one shark they didn't include?
I think every shark they have in this is some kind of tiger shark. I think they're all juveniles because of the size of them. Because tiger sharks can be massive. They can get nearly as big as great whites at points. And these, especially when you see them down from the little cabin hole he's got,
almost like dogfish.
Exactly. They're very small, and I imagine that probably helped with the filming because you get these creatures young, they're like more timid and like they're also more likely to respond well to you, because if you're completely alien to an adult shark, that shark is going to be much more interested in you and much more likely to attack you and nibble you. Right. So that's just my aside from being a little bit obsessed with sharks. But I just thought it was brutal the way they handled that, and very effective and affecting.
When the part where she gets eaten?
Well, I'm coming to this.
Oh, right. Okay,
but the part where she's like standing out to him in the where he comes back for the shark, realizing the shark is not having fun. He's like
he's being tortured.
Yeah, they're playing like hyper frequencies or whatever.
To agitate the shark so it moves around more to entertain the guests. Yeah.
And she confronts him in the parking lot and is like, "You're a fucking freak. Why the fuck would I ever like you?" And it's like a real gut punch. Something the film gets properly right. In my opinion.
For sure. Yeah.
And then, of course, he gets his revenge by cutting the little translucent sheet between her and the shark and letting the shark have at her.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great ending. And I also like the scene where does he put a shark in the husband's pool?
There's another thing where he's got like netting around the side and he just
that's right, yeah. So that was good as well. They do indicate quite early in the film that is probably going to happen because he's just in this dark pool.
Yeah,
and he's like, what a relaxing swim. And you're like, I wonder what's going to happen later in the film. I'm just going to sort of take a wild guess here. Yeah, I actually think, as a main character, he is genuinely quite interesting, and his acting is interesting. It's not what I would call good, but it's committed.
Committed. Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I believe his emotional journey, even if there are points where I kind of scoff at it or laugh at it a bit.
This film is so weird. It's very oddly paced, and they'll have these like super intense scenes, and then there's a lot of downtime of just like him
chilling,
being
just doing I
just care so much about sharks.
Yeah, just his routine.
I would describe this film as sort of like an essential oddity. There's not really anything quite like it, which I do really respect.
Yeah.
And there is a lot to respect about this film. But if you're like I don't know, a horror newbie, or you're like, is this going to be a good film in terms of just like fun shark scenes? Not really.
No, it's much more of a deep cut. Yeah, if you have a more specific interest in 70s horror and creature features,
interesting piece of history.
Like, I mean, I love my sharks, so for me, I was already on board. Yeah, hooked. Whatever fishing related puns you want to go for. So if you like me have that kind of passion, it's definitely worth a watch, especially for its kind of unique perspective and messaging that so few of these films. Because thinking back to last year, a film we watched was Orca, which is very much released in the same vein as kind of like Orca's tagline was like, what's more dangerous than a great white? An orca. So it was literally trying to one-up Jaws. That had an interesting thing of, it was very conflicted in its messaging with regards to the kind of environmental statement. It was like, don't, interfere with killer whales, don't entrap them,
but shoot this one with a harpoon.
Well, yeah, it was like whales are beautiful creatures, like the killer whales, we must treat them with respect, because if you don't, it will fucking kill you, bro. It will fucking hunt you down for the rest of your life. Never fuck with the orcas, bro. Like, it's like, it doesn't know where does it stand. Is it an environmental statement about like
this is much
the
more
preservation, or is it like whales and sharks will kill you? This is like very even in its statement and much less exploitative of sharks as its medium. It does to a degree, obviously, because it uses sharks for some of its kills, but there is a kind of moral justness to the way that they're used. So it kind of sidesteps that. Before we get onto our ratings and everything, I do want to just shout out one of the best moments of acting in the film, where he discovers the shark he's given off to this collector or some kind of museum curator, whatever it is.
Oh God,
He walks in, finds the shark is dead, but then realised the shark that died was pregnant, and he holds this dead baby shark in his hands and just goes, no.
It's so
he's
good.
Just weeping, and it stays on him for so long, because it is pretty grim what they're showing, but he's just like, he does not know how to cry convincingly, and it is so like jarringly funny.
A perfect example of what happens when a director just tells an actor like, okay, now do the scene.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll do. And then they just use the first take.
Right.
No need to go over it again.
Yeah, it did feel like
no
that.
Direction, actor just kind of thrown in the deep end, if you will, and just cry over this dead baby shark.
Also, another point, I'm sure they're shooting this in the Everglades, in like Florida, so around there.
Probably.
But a lot of the sharks are shown in, I think, fresh water.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it's in rivers and lakes.
Yeah, it looks like it.
And I will just say, neither tiger sharks nor Mako sharks that they're pretending them to be can do that.
No.
They should have been called bull shark, the jaws of death.
Yeah.
But then they didn't use any bull sharks. So I would just like to point that out for all accuracy.
Well, there is also most of the scenes where you have someone in open water with a shark. There is a lot of like, here's footage from a shark in an enclosure in some kind of pool.
Yes.
And then someone going in the water.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I would say. The scenes where they shoot the people in the water with the sharks are amazing.
Yes.
But then there is some of that splice footage as well, which is less good.
What's goofy is sometimes you'll have like a shot of like, oh, there's definitely a shark under this water in this river, and then it'll cut underneath the river,
It's
and
like
the
clear.
water is completely different colour. It's this beautiful jewel-coloured blue, and then from the top is this murky, like disgusting
like
browny
water.
green kind of river water. So I mean that does come with the territory of such low-budget horror films. So yeah, Rupert, what do you reckon you'll rate this film?
I'm once again between a 4 and a 5. As I said before, I can recommend it.
Yeah.
If you're interested in it. For a start, it's free on YouTube, so literally just Google this film and it will come up on YouTube, and you've got nothing to lose really. And it is genuinely interesting as a sort of pro-environmental shark protection film with basically a psychic eco-terrorist as its main character.
We haven't talked enough about him being a psychic.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say.
But it's just it's crazy that is a fact about this film.
I love that, and I wish it had done more with that, because I think that's brilliant. But it is, in terms of filmmaking, very uneven.
Yes.
Has some great spectacle, has some sort of really shoddy moments. It's a bit uneven, but I'm between a 4 and a 5 myself.
I'm pretty much exactly with you. Yeah, it's a frustrating balance of very mundane stuff and quite impressive stuff. Yeah, like I said, with all of the shark encounters with like real divers doing like really genuinely quite dangerous work, and then just having a guy kind of wandering around and the machinations and economics of running a bar in the middle of the Everglades, with a pool in the back. I mean, that's about it. There is not much more to say other than I think it's a light recommend from the both of us. If you are specifically interested in these kind of low budget 70s films and you have a passion for kind of creature features and sort of aquatic shark horror, because God knows there are very few really quality ones of those, and in spite of this not being quite there, it does have its merits over a lot of films of its ilk. And I guess we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you liked this video, and stick around for more horror reviews throughout the month of October. And after that, plenty of reactions and more great stuff on the horizon. If you dislike this video, hit dislike, and we will catch you again in the next one. Peace.
Peace.